again, this is David from the Shepherd School, and today what we're going to do is to make some homemade cream of wheat. One of my very first videos that we made showed how to bulk pack and store wheat in bulk. So I've got a couple 100 pounds of wheat, and with that much wheat I need to figure out some recipes, because you don't want to store things that you won't eat, because what's the sense? I've been trying to make bread, but I'm not very good at it. And bread, you know, after a while that can get kind of old. So I bought some recipe books, and I've been playing around in the kitchen, and I've been specifically looking for recipes that I could use a blender for rather than a grinder, because I don't have a very good grinder, and kind of hesitant in spending $400 or $500 for a good grinder. So I found one recipe here. The first one we're going to do is the cream of wheat, and we can do it in a blender. So basically the recipes are pretty simple. I've got some wheat berries. I've got about a third of a cup, and that doesn't look like a whole lot. And price-wise, it's not. If you think that a 50-pound bag is about $20, a third of a cup of wheat is going to be, you know, a quarter of a cent or so. So basically, that doesn't look like very much, but once I crack this in the grinder, it's going to make probably about half again as much. So I might have about a half a cup or so of wheat. And when you cook wheat, it's a lot like cooking rice. It's you know, 1 cup of ingredient, 2 cups of water makes 3 cups of product. So if I end up with half a cup of wheat berries ground up, and I add a cup of water to it, it's going to make, you know, that much again in food. I've also got some butter, some salt, some honey, and a little bit of milk to make it a little creamier, and that's just basically to my taste. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put the wheat berries in a blender, and I'm going to pulse it until it cracks. Now I don't want to try to make it into a powder or a flour, because number one, that's bad on the blender. Number two, if I do that, my cream of wheat will be more like soup. So I'm just going to, there'll be some powder in there, but mostly I'm just wanting to crack the berries in half. So take a couple minutes for that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil my water on the stove, and once it's boiling, just like with rice, I'm going to dump it in there. Now I could do this in the microwave, and if I did in the microwave, it'd take about 2 minutes or so. But because of the protein content of the wheat, it boils over a lot, and I don't have a big enough Pyrex bowl in order to not make a mess in my microwave. So I'm going to do it on the stove. So that's all we're going to do. It's pretty simple. So let's go to the blender. Okay, here's my blender. It's not a real fancy blender. And I've got my berries. I'm just going to pour them in there just like that. Put the lid on, and I'm going to pulse. Here we go. You see it's kind of dusty. And it's starting to turn into a powder. There we go. Okay, you can see it's not quite a flour, but there's not a lot of whole berries. Any whole berry in there is going to kind of be like a nut. It'll be kind of chewy. So let's see how much we actually ended up with. Started with a third of a cup, and have almost a half a cup. So now what we're going to do is boil some water. We're going to come back when that's boiling. I don't want to, you know, watch pot never boil, so we're not going to bore you. So we'll come back in a second. Okay, now it's boiling. Going to add in my butter. And this isn't necessary. I just not a big wheat fanatic, and if I don't got a little flavor in there, I won't like it. Put in a little bit of salt. And then add in my wheat. And basically, just like cooking rice, you get that boiling, and you put it on low and let it simmer and let those berries soak up the water. Now, if you don't cook it pretty good, it'll taste basically like flour, because that's what it is. But you let it cook for a little while, and it'll take away some of that flour taste, and it tastes almost nutty. So we're going to do this for a little while, then we'll come back, add the milk and the honey. Probably take just a couple minutes, like this. I'm going to turn the heat down to low, and keep stirring that and watching it, and then we'll come back a little bit, add the last two ingredients. Okay, so it's been simmering for about 2 minutes, and you can tell it's thickened up. And you could probably eat it about right now. However, I want a little bit of sugar. Instead of using regular sugar, which you could, let me put in some honey and a little bit of milk. And then I'm going to cook it for a little while longer and let that thicken up. Cinnamon, brown sugar, about anything you want to put in. It's got a lot of good protein in it. So if I add a little bit of fat, it's pretty filling. Something that I've noticed about it, and this is about the 4th time or so that I've cooked this. Let's say about, and this could be psychosomatic, it could just be in my head, but I find after about 30 minutes after eating this stuff, all of a sudden I get a lot more energy and my mood elevates a little bit. If you do any research or look into it, you'll find that as long as the wheat berry is whole, the natural oils don't go rancid. And so all the nutrients last in the wheat pretty much indefinitely. Store it in a bag, vacuum pack Mylar bag. You keep it in a cool, dark place. They say shelf life's in the 30 years or so. But anecdotal evidence, when they opened up some of the pyramids in Egypt, they found some wheat that was stored with the pharaohs, and some of that had sprouted, after being, stored in the cool, dark, dry place for, thousands of years. Okay, it's thickened up pretty nicely. Now, one big difference between this and the regular cream of wheat that you buy is that it's a little more brown. It's because it's, less processed. Now, that might turn people off. That's why you want to go ahead and get used to this before that you need it. Especially if you've got people like I do in my family that eat with their eyes. 2 or 3 cents worth of ingredients, and then I end up with a good filling, if a little unappetizing looking meal, for about 5 minutes worth of work. So what we're going to do is we're going to eat this, going to go out there and work on some other projects, and probably tonight we're going to do something with wheat that my wife really likes, which is whole wheat berry waffles. So next recipe that you see will be whole wheat berry waffles made in a blender. So until next time, you can go to my blog, www.tngun.com, or check us out on YouTube. So anyway, I appreciate it, and y'all have a good day.